Hi, I'm Melanie Bunn. I'm a registered nurse and a consultant with Dementia Alliance of North Carolina, and I'm glad to be with you to give these information about COVID-19 and its impact on people living with dementia. This is the second of 3 videos. The first video talked about risk reduction. This video is going to talk about health promotion, and the third video will be addressing managing sick days. None of this information is intended to replace or conflict information provided by CDC or federal or state or local governments or health recommendations. So let's begin by talking about health promotions, or these are, as I like to call them, the to-dos. These are things to do, maybe not to prevent becoming infected with COVID-19, but certainly to reduce your risk, to improve your recovery, and make it a little bit better if you do get infected. We're going to focus on how we can do these things specifically with people living with dementia. Again, we're going to break it down into pieces. We're going to talk about nutrition and rest, nutrition and hydration. We're going to talk about sleep and rest. We're going to talk about activity and exercise. And we're going to talk about stress management. And actually, I think it makes sense to talk about that last one first. And the reason for that is things that impact stress and stress management impact health in general. Health in general impacts your ability to manage stress, and all of those impact your immune system and your ability to recover. So if we reduce stress or manage stress or do a better job at keeping stress in its place, because stress is part of life, we need a little bit of stress, but we don't need it to take over. If we can manage stress better, improve our responses to it, our immune system is promoted and our health becomes a little bit more predictable, a little bit more stable, and we're in better shape to recover from an illness, including COVID-19. So we talk about stress management, specifically thinking about people living with dementia. It makes sense to talk about the importance of routine, the importance of life being predictable, the importance of things making sense. So when we're in a time where things are complicated, and isn't life complicated right now, when we think about things being complicated and we think about everybody being a little off, people who used to come and go are home all the time now. People who used to be home might be coming and going a little more. Children are around when they didn't used to be there all the time. And the places that we used to go aren't there. It's complicated. So thinking about those components of routine, what of those components can we protect? What can we do to keep the rhythm of the day? And that may include, if we bookmark it with morning routines and evening routines, and then have a couple little bookmarks along the way, the life may become more predictable, more manageable, and that reduces stress for people living with dementia. Another thing to consider is the emotional environment. So do this when you're your shoulders up like this, squint your head up, face like this. You may not be realizing, but a lot of y'all look really stressed right now. I see y'all out there, not anywhere where you're not supposed to be, but I see y'all at the gas station. I see y'all waiting in line, getting groceries and looking for toilet paper. I know that life is stressed. Here's the thing. People living with dementia are very good at picking up stress. They're very good at noticing emotional environments, but maybe not so good at really interpreting, really understanding this issue, this emotional environment that seems distressed and intense. It's not about me. It's not me, but they don't have the ability often to sort through. And so they begin to feel tense and distressed and uncomfortable, and that creates an environment in which they begin to not just take it in, but to push it back out. And the ways they push it back out doesn't make life better for anybody. It doesn't make life better for them. It doesn't help them with their coping or their stress. It doesn't help with our coping and our stress. Now, let me be clear. I'm not saying hide it. I'm not saying pretend everything is okay and there's nothing wrong, because people with dementia see through that. I'm saying just use your own coping strategies. Use your own way of filtering. Take care of yourself. take care of letting go of some of the issues that you can't control. Do what you need to do to keep yourself in a good place, and that's going to make life better for everybody. Another thing you can do to help with this stress management is to reflect on, what did this person used to do when times were hard? What did this person used to do when things were rough? When they were stressed, what were their coping mechanisms when they were in their middle years? What were their coping mechanisms when they were in their young adult years, when they were young children? What did they do? So if the person's stress management was to get outside and walk around, then getting outside might be a really good thing. Now, if it was something that, going to movies, no, that's not going to be happening right now. But what can we do to provide them with a similar kind of experience in our homes? So if the person coped through talking to friends, let's provide some of that. Maybe not all of that has to come from the primary care partner. Maybe that's where some of those loving people who say, let me know if there's anything I can do, let me help. Maybe that's where some of that support comes through, is that person who needs some time to talk and to be with other people virtually, if not in person. Maybe the person needs some time away and quiet to respond and to reflect and to recover. Maybe that's what they need. Lastly, those healthy lifestyle choices. Those are an important part of stress management. You can't manage your stress if your body isn't healthy. Your brain is not healthy if your body isn't healthy. Your body isn't healthy if you're not taking care of the rest of you and your brain. So we're going to start talking about some of those healthy behaviors. We're going to start with nutrition and hydration. Take a deep breath, because yes, we're talking about eating and drinking. Eating and drinking, critical to life. And for people living with dementia, it's critical for life as well. It's about finding that balance between health and pleasure. Because nutrition, food, is one of the ways we bring that amygdala pleasure into our lives. Maybe not as much as some of us do. I'm talking to myself. But it certainly is a way that can encourage people to eat, make people interested in eating. We want the focus for health on fresh fruits and vegetables. Thankfully, these help our immune system. We want lean protein so we don't start breaking down muscle tissue. And we want enough calories to be able to maintain and sustain. This is not the time to be trying to gain a lot of weight or lose a lot of weight. This is the time to be just kind of buckling down and being where we are. When the person isn't eating well, whether it's because they're feeling a little distressed, or if it's because they don't have any energy, or maybe this person is sick, start thinking about where you can get the most nutrition for the least amount of effort. So the biggest bang for the buck makes me think about things that are high calorie, but also have a lot of nutritional value. My top 3: peanut butter, milkshakes, and fruit purees. Those are my top 3. Peanut butter, milkshakes, which you can put peanut butter and the fruit in. It's a delivery system more than a specific ingredient. But think about sandwiches. Think about things that don't require a lot of effort to eat, because the less effort that's involved in eating, the more energy the person is going to have for eating. Another thing that can be helpful is temperature. Foods that are warm or foods that are cool tend to be more interesting. They tend to have more scent. They tend to be things that people reach out for more. They promote appetite. With fluid, yes, water is important, but if people are going to drink water or they aren't, they're going to drink fluids or they aren't. If they're not drinking fluids, thinking about non-liquid ways of getting fluid in. So that makes me think about things like soup. Again, yogurt and smoothies and milkshakes. Fruits. A lot of fruits have high water content, particularly things like watermelon. Water is right there in the name. And berries often have a lot of juice in them. Pineapple has a lot of juice in it. Thinking about those kinds of fruits and vegetables. It's amazing how much liquid there is in something like celery or cucumbers or lettuce. So think about ways to get that kind of nutrition in. Sleep and rest. We've done a whole video that's available on the Dementia Alliance YouTube channel, specifically on sleep. But generally, think about, is it trouble going to sleep or trouble staying asleep? Are we talking about developing an approach that includes physical and emotional and or environmental approaches? When it comes to rest, rest is about comfort. So what are the things that are comfortable in an environment? Is it a certain amount of light, certain kinds of light, the amount of noise, certain types of noise, the things that are familiar and comforting and nurturing? Do you want to be with people? Would you rather have privacy and be alone? Do you want to be moving, or do you want to be still? Do you want activity going on around you? Do you want to be watching TV, have something to do, or would you rather that be quiet? And those are things we can consider for the person living with dementia. So the goal is to have enough exercise and activity that we can rest and sleep, and to have enough rest and sleep that we've got enough energy for activity and exercise. So you know what we're moving on to now? Exercise. Put your focus on function. Say it with me. Put your focus on function. One more time. Put your focus on function. And what I mean by that is, people living with dementia like to do things that are meaningful, things that make sense. So things that have a purpose. So instead of just walking, although many people do like to just walk, I'm not saying if somebody likes to walk, don't just go for a walk. Being outside, going for a walk might be one of the best ways we can spend time together now. But if someone isn't really interested in walking for the point of walking, having a purpose to it. So let's go get the mail out of the mailbox. I had a family who went to the mailbox 12 times a day. You know, they would go to the mailbox and put a piece of mail in the mailbox and come back and say, oh, here's another piece of mail. We've got to put this one in the mailbox and we've got to come back. And then when they went to the mailbox, they get one piece out at a time. It didn't bother the person living with dementia, and the care partner was really grateful to have the time out moving around, walking around, doing stuff. Think about things like carrying in groceries and emptying the dishwasher. Think about things like that are rhythmical, like sweeping and dusting and raking. And you'll find that a lot of times people can be really successful with those kinds of things. They get some work done, you get some work done. It can be a really nice partnership. Using and integrating music into these kinds of activities can take a lot of the burden away. Just put on some nice music, and a lot of times you find you just can't stop moving. And so dancing or walking or marching or doing something just happens naturally, even if it's just moving in place, can be really nice. And alternate rest with activity. It's not about doing everything all at one time, and it's finding some time for some rest, some time for some activity, some time for some rest, some time for some activity, some time for some rest, some time for some activity. So in summary, staying healthy probably won't prevent infection, but it certainly impacts recovery. And so staying healthy in a time of stress is only going to make life better for you and for the person living with dementia. So work on these health promotion activities and strategies. I'm going to challenge you. If you're listening to this and you're somebody's care partner, I'm going to ask you a favor. I'm going to ask you to go back, listen to this again, but now instead of thinking about it from the perspective of the person living with dementia, this next time you listen to it, think about it from the perspective of, what can I do for myself? What can I do for myself to keep myself healthy? And remember that we appreciate you listening. We appreciate you sharing. We appreciate you commenting. If you've got questions, if you need more information, reach out. Share your own ideas. Share your own strategies. Share what you're going to try, because these videos are intended to begin, not to finish these conversations. These conversations are just starting. And the conversations you need to have about your person are going to be different than anybody else. So start these conversations. Use them as a reason to reach out to Dementia Alliance of North Carolina, to reach out to other organizations like the CDC with your questions, with your concerns, and just to stay part of the community.